You got to see that. Thank you very much. Thanks for you part of entourage.
Here we are. You got all the run.
Hello. She can't hold it.
Sorry,
This is like half an hour. Will you give roll this time?
Yes. All right. So we might ask everybody just to take a seat and get straight on.
Yeah, just.
Thank you, Paron. Well, firstly, good morning, everybody, and I especially wanted to welcome our Prime Minister, the Honourable Scott Morrison, and yes, and to all of the Rabbonim, and to Kate Ashmore, who is our newly endorsed Liberal candidate for McNamara. And could we please welcome Kate? And so many other official guests. Dr. Dan Lamb also is here, and welcome to you. And especially to Rabbi Helbram, who is the President of the Rabbinical Council of Victoria. Thank you, Rabbi. And we have rabbis from all spheres, and I wanted to also welcome our progressive rabbis here as well today. Today is a very special occasion. It's the first time that we've had the Prime Minister come to visit a community in his capacity as Prime Minister. He's certainly been to the community before. Also to Sam Tataka, thank you to you, Sam. Sam has been instrumental in helping facilitate today. And for the rabbis, we had today's program especially to be able to announce particularly that we're having a security fence being erected thanks to the Prime Minister's funding that he's been able to facilitate. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Rabbi Helbram to say a few words on behalf of the rabbis here today, and then ask the Prime Minister to also respond. It's important, Prime Minister, that I wanted to say to you that we have a very strong rabbinical leadership, as you know. This area, you'd be surprised to know, has just a few synagogues. They say that there's a story that goes of a Jew that's on a desert island. He decides to build 2 synagogues. One for the synagogue that he would go to, one to be able to say he doesn't go to that synagogue. And we have about 65 synagogues in just this area of Caulfield. And we have lots of choice, and we have really, really good communities for people to be able to go to, and here we have today a good representative of that. One other thing, Prime Minister, that I did want to point out to you is we launched just over a month ago the Liberal Friends of Israel, and it was done as in my capacity as a member for Caulfield, with also Senator James Patterson and Tim Wilson as the 3 patrons of this group, and we look forward to having you come and speak to that group. But it was launched in one of our synagogues locally, so we thank certainly the synagogues that have been able to provide that support. And we've got the rabbi here at the moment. Thank you, Rabbi, for that. And now give me great pleasure to ask Rabbi Helbram to say a few words.
Dear Prime Minister, we, the leaders of Victoria's Rabbinate, are most honoured and delighted to meet you here for the first time in your capacity as our esteemed Prime Minister. Our congratulations, Mazel Tov, on your recent election. This week in our traditional Torah scriptural readings, we have the description of how one righteous man, the only person I think in the entire Bible who was ever called by God a righteous person, Noah, under God's guidance, perpetuated mankind, all life on earth, and established a basic code of law for all mankind. In that spirit, we express our support and salute your efforts, Prime Minister, in energetically dedicating yourself and your government to the welfare and success of all Australians, including your support of us, Victoria's Jews, and our rabbinic leaders. Together with our community, we are gratified that you personally, together with our country Australia, have a long-standing great friendship with Israel, and we will work with you that this should continue to flourish. In particular, as rabbis, we are greatly encouraged that our inspired leader turns spontaneously to prayer for divine inspiration and guidance and help in moments of need. And that very, very badly photographed picture of you or photograph of you praying to Hashem, to God for rain, certainly resonated greatly with us, even though other people wanted to belittle it in some way or another. We wholeheartedly join in your fervent plea for God to revive the vast parched places and anguished drought-suffering people in our beloved Australia with the blessings of life-giving rain. Maybe a little bit on the way that we read it in the Torah this coming week about Noah, but the pigeon is up there. We pray that God will favour you with great success in all your endeavours on behalf of all of Australia, and that through that you too shall have a little bit of kudos for yourself. And this all, letav ulechayim v'lishlam, for good, for life, and for peace. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Helbram. Could I was looking everywhere for you, Senator James Patterson, who is here, rabbis, so who's been a staunch supporter of our community. Welcome and thank you for everything that you do. And I do know we've got Dr. Katie Allen, who's our Liberal candidate for Paran, that's here, and Asher Judah, I believe, our Liberal candidate for Bentley, that's around somewhere as well. So welcome and good luck for you in November. It's a great pleasure now to introduce the Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, to address us. Please.
Thank you. Well, Rabbi Helbram, thank you for those very assembled rabbis who are here today. I pay my respects to all of you and your communities, and I want to thank you for the work that you do in your communities. The work you do to care for people in your communities, for those less fortunate than ourselves, but not just the practical support you give to your communities, but the prayerful and pastoral support that you give in your communities. I walk past here the room for bereaved parents, and I have no doubt that you have a big role in what goes on when particularly dealing with those sorts of life challenges. But I can say that, Rabbi Helbram, that often they ask you in politics, who are your political heroes? Who are the people that you look up to in terms of that guide your experiences or the way you would seek to lead? And it is true that, in Australia there are many that I have. I've worked with Prime Ministers, many of them, directly, others I've observed and respect greatly. People like John Howard, of course, but at a state level, people like Jeff Kennett I remarked about last night, but also up in New South Wales, Nick Greiner and others, and they've formed a big part of my personal experience as a politician. You go overseas and you think about people like Teddy Roosevelt and others, but I've got to tell you, the people who really guide me when I look to the inspiration of leadership is Joshua, Daniel, Joseph, Nehemiah is a particular favourite of mine. And after the ballot for the leadership, where Josh and I were elected both leader and deputy leader of the party, I think this is actually a first. I spoke about Joshua, not Joshua Frydenberg, although Josh, I think for a moment, thought I was talking about him. And I talked about the night before, when you read in Joshua, how Joshua went out from the camp and he looked at the walls of Jericho. And I got to tell you, the night before that ballot and every night since, it's been a lot like that for me. You look at these big walls and you look at these big challenges and you become quite overwhelmed by it. But the angel of the Lord came to Joshua at that time and made it very clear whose side he was on. And Abraham Lincoln used to say this. He used to say, it's not for us to decide or to seek to proclaim whether God is on our side, but it's our job to make sure that we are earnestly on God's. And I just want you to know that while we might be of slightly different faiths, we both worship the same God passionately. And that is something I look to each and every day. And I want to thank you for your words about prayer. And whether it's Joseph or whether it's Daniel or whether it's Joshua or Moses, or the stories, the leadership are ones that we can all draw on in the respective responsibilities we have as leaders in our communities. Now, for me, my faith is not my politics. And I don't think faith should be about politics. I think what I read about my faith informs me. How can it not? Our faith is who we are. It goes to our deepest identity as a human being. But we all have to make choices about what we do and how we go forward. And Australia is a secular country by constitution, but it's not a godless nation. It's not a nation of people who don't share a faith. And there are many faiths. And I think the life of faith and religion in our community has always made it stronger. It has always been an enormous part of what has made Australia stronger and will be into the future. And that's why I feel very strongly and passionately about religious freedom. It was one of the first things I talked about in my first speech to the Parliament, my maiden speech to the Parliament. Because when I read my faith, if it's good enough for God to tell us that we have the freedom to choose how we respond to him, well, everyone should have that freedom under Australian law as well. And that's what freedom of religion is, in my view. I think God himself has said in his scriptures that he wants us to choose. And and that's what is our response. And how we choose to do that is for us, and then to live accordingly. So I just wanted to share that personal story. I don't often talk about my faith, but amongst this group, I think I'm in good company for you to know, I think, and empathise with how I think about these things. So I want to thank you very much for being here today. I want to assure you of our government's support for the safety and the freedom of the Jewish community in Australia. And they're not just words, we back it up. We back it up. And what we've been doing here at Beth Weizmann today is backing that up. And I'm always have a keen ear towards the Jewish community. For those of you in the other room, I talked about it. When my kids go to Sunday school, they don't need security. When I go to church on a Sunday, I don't need security. Well, I do now, but that's not because I'm going to church. But I don't need that. But I think it's a great sadness in this country that you do. And I pray for the day where that won't be necessary. But until that day, we will be standing with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. And we know that you're very busy with a number of other engagements today. So I'm going to ask Kate Ashmore to just do a quick vote of thanks. And then I believe we've got a presentation from the rabbis afterwards.
Thank you, David. Prime Minister, Senator Patterson, Rabbonim, good morning. Thank you so much for coming on short notice. I hope this gives you comfort and confidence that the Liberal Party is truly a Zionist political party, that the Prime Minister is here personally today is an enormous vote of confidence for his support for our community. Many of you know me, you know personally this has been a passionate project of mine to do what I can to see this security project get over the line, and we've done it today. Onward to the next challenge, because it's all about getting things done. and serving our community. I will be running to be the first Jewish woman ever elected to the House of Representatives. We have 6 Jewish men now in the Parliament, but there's never been a Jewish woman. So this presents an enormous opportunity, and we'll talk about that another time. We have a state election to get through first. But Prime Minister, I think you will know that you will be welcome at any time to visit any congregation, both here and in other states. But when you do visit, so that you can feel comfortable if you wish, we thought you might like to have one of these, which is a yarmulke just for you. It says PM ScoMo.
Thank you very much. That's lovely. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much.
And may I say, this was inspired by Rabbi Glassman, who organised a special St Kilda Football Club yarmulke for Matthew Guy.
Well, thank you very much. That's wonderful. So, first Jewish woman to be elected, that's what we're going for.
That's what we're going
Up
for.
Again, there'll be 6 Jewish men. That sounds about even.
Well, that's right. Thank you.
We'll get you to stay up here, Prime Minister, and ask Rabbi Mervis and Rabbi Khan to come and give a presentation as well.
That was a joke, by the way.
Now you know we've got a real politician. Mr. Prime Minister, on behalf of the Rabbinate of Victoria, first of all, could we thank you so much for coming and spending the morning with us over here.
Thank you.
What a better thing to do, right?
Yeah, all good.
All good. We're actually going to be presenting with you a chamsa, what's known, which is, you can see it's a hand over here, which a hand is all about giving, it's all about the gesture of peace and love and warmth and embrace that we have for each other. And we as a community, we want to today reach out to you as our new Prime Minister. First of all, wish you mazel tov and acknowledge your tremendous success.
Thank you.
And we want to tell you that we're reaching out with the arm of love, of friendship, of warmth, and we know that that's being reciprocated. So thank you so much. We also want to reaffirm, as Rabbi Hilbert made mention, we want to reaffirm the commitment for the Liberal Party. You mentioned John Howard before. The likes of Alexander Downer, John Howard, in terms of their friendship for Israel, and we know that's going to continue with you, so thank you so much. I'm going to ask Rabbi Mervis to read the plaque.
This is presented to the Prime Minister of Australia, the Honorary Scott Morrison, by the Rabbinical Council of Victoria in October 2018, which is the Hebrew month of Cheshvan in our year 5779.
Thank you.
I'll turn that around. Thank
you very much. Oh, over here.
Kate, come in as well.
Come in, Kate.
It's the halacha.
Come.
Yeah, it's conscious today. Okay, that's all right.
Could we also just invite the executive Rabbinical
Can I just
Council?
have the RCV committee, just Rabbi Panofsky and...
Yes, you hold on to that. Okay.